A year ago, I was in the psychiatric ward at St. Paul's Hospital. When you hear this, what do you think of me? Am I less worthy, more suspect? I have 20 years experience as a communications professional. Yet with this new diagnosis of bipolar disorder, I fear people may think I'm incompetent, not worth hiring. If I told you a year ago I was in the cancer ward, would I worry about stigma then? Why is there a difference? I don't fault you for any prejudice. I've been battling my own. Self-stigma. I mean, what kind of person ends up in the mental health ward? A crazy person, right? That can't be me. Ironically, I had been developing a mental health web series for a few years prior to my hospitalization. I felt compelled to do this following the death of my friend Barb's daughter by suicide. Hayden was 16. As a communications expert, I thought I could offer something meaningful to help people. Turns out, I needed some of my own medicine. When you have a breakdown or a manic episode like I did, one of the misconceptions is that you suddenly become less intelligent. My mind went to the wild side, but my IQ didn't drop. So I'm in the hospital, looking around, when it occurs to me, I can investigate this place for our web series. Excellent. Normally, documentary film producers are not welcome to tour your local mental health ward. There are privacy concerns, but often the reports from the inside aren't entirely glowing in terms of how the system is working, or rather, not working. Very clever to get admitted then. Yeah, I'm crazy, all right. Like a fox. Another insight, bipolar. There's a box on grant applications, disabled, tick. Might get us funding to finish our project. It wasn't all silver linings, though. I feared what this new bipolar label would cost me. I was the same person, but the world would surely view me differently. I had to lean on my interviews with mental health advocates to keep myself from believing the lies that society tells us about mental illness.
The point about illness is, I'm sick, so what? Needs to be the approach, right? I have good days, I have bad days.
So what? I like the tone of that. Defiant. It takes the power away from the stigma.
Can you imagine going to a mental health unit and going, I'm going to go transform, and everybody backing you up behind that and understanding that and welcoming you in there as you walk in the door? And, that people are met with that hope, not not this despair that you're crazy, mental, whatever, that you're actually brilliant. You're a biological being going through a transformation.
What if my breakdown was actually the prelude to a breakthrough? One of the drivers for me in working on this has been my father. Brilliant, funny, loving, a good man. He had bipolar disorder also. My dad's favorite cousin, Lorna, was sent to a mental asylum as a teenager and never spoken of again. The lesson? It's not safe to be crazy. You will be a source of shame to your family. You will be abandoned. My dad would not identify as having bipolar disorder. He lived without treatment. My dad was in a manic episode when he died of a heart attack 4 years ago. I believe, at least in part, that stigma killed my dad. This has to stop. It starts with me. I refuse to see myself as less worthy because my brain works differently. And I don't want to stand under the mental health umbrella as it is now. So I propose a makeover. I'm not suggesting that we dress up a dysfunctional system with lipstick and call it a day. In marketing, we would address the product itself if it was failing. So the work of mental health reform still has to be done. What I can offer, though, is how to position mental health in a more positive way. There are 4 essential actions we can take to begin shifting our cultural narrative. 1, set the tone. 2, change the narrative. 3, find common ground. 4, focus on outcomes. Set the tone. In marketing, this means establishing the mood or attitude associated with a brand or product. I choose fierce compassion as the tone for rebranding mental health. Fierce compassion means heartfelt and powerful action. Fierce. We have to stand up to attitudes and beliefs that do not serve us and to a system that is failing. Mental health is the orphan of the healthcare system. Meanwhile, depression is the leading cause of ill health and disability worldwide. Yet we're not going to deal with it because of stigma. Stigma is a bully that needs to be put in its place. And governments and the healthcare system must be held accountable for their failure to adequately fund and respond to this global crisis. Compassion. Being cruel toward anyone who is struggling with their mental health has been normalized in our society. Our struggles are often treated as a joke or dismissed. The healthcare system itself is not rooted in compassion. At the emergency care level, the standard is beds and meds, which is not the same as care and counseling. If we elevate our social norm to one that is more compassionate, we set the stage for systemic reform, including education, research, treatment options, personalized medicine, and a more holistic approach. Change the narrative. Mental health needs a new narrative. Before we give the category new key messages, though, let's lose the language that promotes stigma. You won't hear me say, I am bipolar. I have bipolar disorder. It's an illness I have. It's not who I am. It does not define me. A person with cancer does not say, I am cancer. If you're talking about me, please don't say she is bipolar. Say she has bipolar disorder. Next, let's replace issues with challenges. She has mental health issues. It's too loaded. We use she has issues as an insult. Most of us would own up to having challenges, but few of us wish to be described as having issues. A big one people struggle with is talking about suicide. In the wake of a death by suicide, people commonly say, I don't know what to say. So often they say nothing. Silence breathes more life into shame and stigma. To start, don't say committed suicide. Say died by suicide. Committed suggests a criminal act. It rings of condemnation. The truth is, anyone can become suicidal. Anyone can fall to their knees in despair and think, I can't do this anymore. Suicide is a human phenomenon. Find common ground. Let's lose the us and them in this conversation. There is no us and them, only us. Each of us with emotional highs and lows, each of us with a brain that works well sometimes and not as well other times. So what if someone has a mental health diagnosis and someone else doesn't? The absence of the official label is no guarantee you are mentally well yourself. Perhaps that's what scares people. Better point at the crazy person over there so nobody looks at me. I have bipolar disorder, but you and I are not so different. Raise your hand if you want to feel peaceful. Raise your hand if you want to be happy. Me too. Let's start the conversation there with the things we agree on, our shared desire and potential for good mental health. Focus on outcomes. When we're unwell, it's not a pretty picture. It freaks people out. So let's not give the breakdown all of the attention. Focus more on breakthroughs, peace of mind, happiness, resilience. We won't deny the journey there. We will give space for healing. I'm just suggesting that we put more emphasis on the end game. That's why I called our web series Making a Comeback and not Suicide Stories. We will still talk about suicide, but our positioning reassures people that we are emphasizing solutions, so they're more likely to engage with our content. I met a counselor from the Crisis Center at a support group for people who lost a loved one to suicide. Upon hearing of our project, she said, "Good luck, you're gonna need it. No one wants to talk about this." She described setting up her booth at a busy mall on a Saturday and no one stopping by. "What did your banner say?" I asked her. "Crisis Center," she replied. That's a branding problem. If her banner had read, "Happiness Broker," or "Peace of Mind Found Here," she would have attracted more interest. The market needed her product, but she needed to adjust her positioning. That's what I'm recommending, a change in our approach. It starts with ourselves. Compassion is key. It's okay to break down. It happens to the best of us. We all need support with our health at different times. So asking for help and accepting help is a good thing. It doesn't mean you are less worthy. It means you are human. If you are in despair, I ask you to be fierce as well. And hang in there when you think you can't. You are stronger than you know. Gather your allies for support. Be the hero in your own story. Ready to make an amazing breakthrough. Something each of us can do. Ask yourself, what is my mindset towards other people's mental health? If it's based on stigma or outdated familial or cultural norms, then modernize. Give your attitudes and beliefs a makeover. We urgently need your support with this. People are dying as I speak. During this talk, 25 have died by suicide. Tick tock. Stigma is killing people. It's keeping them from getting help. It's keeping our healthcare system in the dark ages. We won't fund what we don't value. So let's elevate the conversation. Let's use the same techniques marketers use to sell us stuff we don't need, to instead promote something we do need. Let's cultivate attitudes and beliefs that empower us. Ditch the stigma, lose the shame. Tell a better story. We can do this, and when we do, it will be the greatest comeback story ever. Thank you.